You've never seen a penalty shootout like this. This goalkeeper didn't just save penalties. He hacked his opponent's minds. The secret wasn't skill, but a psychological trick so powerful it shattered elite players. Stick around, because by the end, you'll see why this tactic was used only once and why it can never work again. Jens Lehmann stood on the precipice of legend in the summer of 2006, not just as a goalkeeper, but as a psychological saboteur. Beneath the roar of Berlin's Olympic Stadium, amid the fever of a World Cup quarterfinal between Germany and Argentina, a curious detail sliced through the noise. Lehmann wasn't just watching the Argentinian players as they stepped up for penalties. He was reading. He was studying. Not the ball, not the player, but a simple, crumpled sheet of paper. The scoreboard read 1-1 after 120 minutes of relentless football. What remained was the cruelest lottery in the game, a penalty shootout. The world waited for the typical dance of nerves and instinct between life taker and goalkeeper. But Jens Lehmann, Germany's last line defense, changed the script. He pulled out a piece of paper tucked in his sock and studied it with the focus of a scholar decoding an ancient text. Each time an Argentinian player stepped forward, Lehmann bent his head down and read. The players hesitated. The audience whispered. What was he reading? The man behind the strategy was not a coach, not a goalkeeper trainer, but Gerd Giedrnzer, a renowned behavioral scientist and director of the Max Planck Institute for Human Development. His research had long probed the depths of decision-making under pressure, and here, in this crucible of footballing anxiety, his theories found flesh. Giedrnzer would later confirm what many had suspected, but few understood. It wasn't what was written on the paper that mattered. It was the illusion, the performance, that twisted the minds of world-class penalty takers. The sheet contained data, statistics on the preferred shooting directions of 7 Argentinian players. But not all of them. When Esteban Cambiasso walked up to take his penalty, Lehmann once again bent down and studied the paper, feigning deep analysis. In truth, there was no data on Cambiasso. His name didn't exist on that sacred sheet. Yet, as Cambiasso struck the ball, Lehmann guessed right and saved it. Germany advanced. Argentina collapsed. This act wasn't merely strategic. It was a psychological warfare. The kind where information isn't weaponized through its content, but through its suggestion. It wasn't the data that beat Argentina. It was the doubt, the self-questioning, the mental trap that forced intuitive athletes to overthink at the exact moment they needed their instincts the most. Giedrnzer's field of study had long explored what happens when expert intuition is interrupted. A professional footballer taking a penalty is not calculating angles and probabilities. He is reacting, relying on years of repetition, of neuromuscular memory, but force that player to stop, to think, to reflect, and the architecture of instinct collapses. Lehmann's act of theatrics, then, was an application of decades of cognitive psychology. It was a masterstroke built not on physical skill, but on understanding the fragility of a human mind under duress. Just as expert golfers perform worse when asked to think about their swing mechanics, or as elite handball players lose efficiency when told to explain their passes, so too do footballers falter when forced to think instead of feel. In one study, professional handball players were shown 10-second video clips from top-level matches. After watching, the video froze, and they were asked what the player in possession should do, pass left or pass right. The players answered quickly from the gut. Then, they were given 45 more seconds to reflect and reconsider. Many changed their minds, yet the data revealed something unsettling. Their first instinct was almost always the best. The second idea was less effective. The third, a disaster. Jens Lehmann may not have quoted psychological journals, but his silent pantomime replicated their findings perfectly. He understood, or at least intuitively grasped, that by acting as if he possessed definitive knowledge, he could introduce hesitation. A single moment of doubt is all a goalkeeper needs to change fate. But if this technique was so effective, so disarming, so decisively victorious, why don't more goalkeepers use it? That's the twist in the tale. Giedrnzer's answer is as elegant as it is ironic. The power of Lehmann's tactic came from its uniqueness. It disrupted because it was unexpected. It forced hesitation because it was novel. If every goalkeeper began pulling out a sheet of paper during penalties, the spell would break, the overthinking would disappear, the effectiveness would vanish. What happened that day in Berlin wasn't just about goalkeeping. It was about the power of deception, the art of suggestion, and the thin line between instinct and anxiety. Lehmann didn't just save penalties. He stole certainty from some of the world's most precise footballers. The psychological jiu-jitsu that Lehmann employed has roots in the concept of heuristics, mental shortcuts our brains take when making split-second decisions. For most of us, these shortcuts help navigate complexity with speed. For experts, they become superpowers. But they are fragile. Expose a shortcut to the harsh light of rational analysis, and it buckles. The goalkeeper's fake ritual disrupted the fluent, intuitive process that allows elite athletes to perform under pressure. It's the same disruption that causes a seasoned performer to falter when asked to explain every move, the same dissonance that throws off a chess grandmaster when forced to verbalize why they chose a certain opening. Once conscious thought is inserted into a process that thrives on instinct, the performance suffers. Lehmann's paper was more than a bluff. It was a scalpel that carved into the psychology of an opponent trained to operate without conscious thought. That night, every Argentinian player faced more than just a man in gloves. They faced the invisible weight of second-guessing. The aftermath was as quiet as it was damning. Argentina, stripped of their rhythm, exited the tournament. Germany marched forward, and Jens Lehmann, normally overshadowed by flashier teammates, became the unlikely architect of psychological devastation. The brilliance of the act was in its impermanence. You can't recreate surprise once it's been done. That's why this isn't a strategy to be replicated mindlessly. If a modern goalkeeper tried it today, most players would laugh it off. The novelty has decayed, the illusion has faded, and with it, the power. Instead, goalkeepers must continually search for new disruptions. They must evolve, finding ever more unexpected ways to pierce the mental armor of their adversaries. Today, that might mean turning away entirely before the shot. Tomorrow, it might mean dancing or distracting. But always, the goal remains the same: rupture the intuitive process, disrupt the fluency, force the mind to stutter. Because once you do, the margins tilt. In football, where titles are won on the width of a post or the hesitation of a heartbeat, those margins are everything. Germany's victory over Argentina in 2006 was many things: a clash of titans, a tactical battle, a war of nerves. But above all, it was a testament to the dark arts of psychology. Jens Lehmann did not win with gloves. He won with doubt. His sheet of paper, worthless in content, was priceless in consequence. And that may be the most haunting truth of all, that in the game's most pivotal moments, victory doesn't always belong to the fastest, strongest, or most technically gifted. Sometimes, it belongs to the one who can make you hesitate, who can make you forget your training, who can make you doubt what you know. Lehmann's technique was a fleeting masterpiece, one that thrived because it was unexpected, not because it was empirical. But its lesson lingers in every penalty shootout since. It whispers to every goalkeeper with eyes locked on the player. It tells them, your greatest weapon may not be your reach, your reflexes, or your reputation. It may simply be your ability to make the opponent overthink. In that moment, the player sees more than a goalkeeper. They see a puzzle, a trap, a question mark where there should be confidence. And by the time they strike the ball, the war is already lost. Was it a save or a psychological ambush? Did Jens Lehmann expose how fragile even the best athletes become under the illusion of control? And will the next generation of goalkeepers unlock victory, not through gloves, but through games of the mind? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you love untold tactics that change football forever, don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.